Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Gere. I'm the director of the Texas Veterans Leadership Program with the Texas Workforce Commission. I want to welcome you to our webinar on resources for employers so they can hire more veterans and take care of veterans in their workforce. Today, I'm very honored and very happy to be joined by our North Central Regional Manager, Mr. Sam Blanks. Sam, can you take a minute and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sam Blanks. I work for the Texas Workforce Commission Texas Veteran Leadership Program. And I am up at the Fort Cavazos location.
Sam, thank you. Both Sam and I serve the United States Army. We're armor and cavalry units and we retire within the last 10 to 15 years. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank every veteran that is watching this webinar. Thank you for your service. I'd also like to say thank you to the military spouse for their service. When the service member serves, the family does as well. The military situation and our number of veterans in Texas, Texas is a great state. We have over 1.5 million veterans in the state. We recently become the #1 state in the nation for veterans. We also have our multiple military installations from Fort Cavazos, Fort Bliss, Joint Base San Antonio, and then several Air Force bases out west, Dyess, Goodfellow, Shepherd, Laughlin down south. But all these bases, we have over 22,000 to 28,000 service members return to Texas annually. Out of all those installations, and part of that 22 to 28,000, we estimate from surveys that close to 45% of those transitioning service members remain in Texas after their service. This provides a vital talent pool for our Texas employers. As we move on, we will see why hire a veteran. I know there's multiple slides and there's multiple 100 reasons, but we're just going to cover a few to really drive home the point why it's so important. Number one, leadership. Every service member at every level receives some kind of leadership training, whether it be a single private down in a squad, all the way up to a commanding general, commanding admiral in charge of a fleet. That leadership starts first day and it's ingrained. That type of leadership, whether it be at a small unit level, 1 or 2 people, or to a large corporation with thousands of people, is ingrained in these service members. So leadership is one of the primary reasons. Sam's going to explain what initiative all the way to loyalty and what these service members bring to the employer.
Regarding transition service member veteran, initiative is ingrained. I mean, they all know how to take initiative. Once they see something that needs to be done, they go and make it happen. You're talking to self-discipline. You get that out of all the transition service members and veterans because it's ingrained from day one as you start basic training. Also, loyalty. You're going to find out that transition service members and veterans are very loyal to their employers. And that's something that we learn from day one also, is being loyal. So those are some of the great characteristics that you get out of hiring a transition service member or veteran.
And that loyalty, we always tell employers, if you take care of that veteran, your employee, they're going to take care of your company. One of the other things we hear employers talk a lot about is a proven track record. Who better when you have service members who have a proven track record that is over a period of time. You have that track record. You also have the ability for them to learn new technology. The military today is on the cutting edge of new technology, and from our experiences deploying to war zones, every time you went in a country, there was new technology that you had to master because sooner or later it was going to come into play, and lives matter with that technology. Innovation or being innovative. We know soldiers have always been innovative all the way down, and sailors, Marines, airmen, they're all the same. But that innovation from getting tasks done, learning to look at a problem and looking at it to do it better and more efficiently, because when they're looking at it, they're looking at their time. They do it to a standard, but they're always innovative in how they get and accomplish tasks. I think that is something that employers also want to look at. You talk about commitment. You can't get any more committed when you have service members from 3 up to past 20 years with one organization that goes through. That commitment is there Monday through Friday, 24 hours a day, and oftentimes up to 12 to 15 months away from their families. At last, we want to talk, there's military spouses on this slide, and military spouses are one of the keys to the success of our military. And military spouses are a great hire. And one of the most important things is that independence or independence. you have to be independent as a military spouse. I'll use my own personal example. When we deployed back in 2004, we got to Germany, wife went in, she delivered. A week later, we got our household goods. A week later, we were in Iraq. So she had a newborn, unpacking the house, and it is also one of the FRG's leaders. So she was extremely busy. But being independent, that is why military spouses can make such great employees. Now, we have a lot of resources in the state, tremendous amount of resources from multiple organizations that we like to call the Texas Workforce System. We have 28 workforce development boards that cover the entire state. Out of that 28 workforce boards, we have over 170 offices, and out of that 170 offices, over 100 have multiple different programs that are there to support veterans. The boards have specific teams that work solely with employers. And then you have designated veteran programs, such as the Texas Veterans Leadership Program, and then the Texas Veterans Commission Veterans Employment Services Program that works solely with veterans and employers. These two programs, Texas Veterans Leadership Program and TWC program, both work with the veteran, work with the employer, and make that connection. I will also tell you that these programs are also on multiple military installations across the state. They're identifying the talent, working with that talent, working to keep that talent and connect them, to keep them in the state for one, and to connect that talent with Texas employers. We're going to discuss some of the roles of what this staff function does in the Texas workforce system. And I can tell you through the business service units, and especially the Texas Veterans Commission Veteran Employer Liaisons, better known throughout the rest of the country as local veteran employment representatives, that they work solely with employers. They're there to get you to post your job in our labor exchange system, workintexas.com. They will work to get your job posted. They will work for themselves to get your information posted in the system. But this is how we match our UI claimants, all of our UI claimants, all of our job seekers, and a lot of those job seekers are veterans. So it's a service for employers to use. The Texas Veterans Leadership Program with that identifies employers and works with the VELs so the VELs can help enter that information and the business service teams. But at the Workforce Solutions offices, you can have job fairs, you can do targeted recruitment fairs, you can get your information posted on boards. They will work with you on multiple different things. They even do economic development and multiple programs that we have done up at Fort Cavazos on Army Career Skills programs. This staff identifies that veteran, identifies that they meet the qualifications for that position. And I'm going to ask Sam to talk about some of the employers that he routinely works with and how he connects those TSMs, those transition service members coming off of Fort Cavazos with those employers.
I get a lot of calls from employers. Sometimes I don't know how they reach, able to acquire my contact information, but they always calling and inquiring about hiring transition service members and veterans. So I do my best to try to get the employer linked up with the skill set that they are looking for, and always ask them to send the job description. Once they send the job description, I'll take a look at what they're asking for, and I try to match that up with the clients that I'm working with. Also, I'm able to send it out to the transition service members in the Texas Workforce database, and so they can look at the job opportunities, and if they meet the criteria, they can reach out to me and I'll get them linked up with the employers. And now let's hear from veterans hired by Heritage Roofings and regarding to their experience.
As a former veteran, I understand a lot of the values, traits, and hardships that they possess, that they learn throughout their career, their service.
I'm a project manager in sales for Heritage Construction.
Hiring a veteran is beneficial because you get to unlock an aspect of that person that I'm not saying you can't obtain in a civilian, but it's definitely a level of discipline and knowledge that they are gaining throughout their experience in the military. What I would suggest to other employers that are looking to hire veterans is have an absolute solid interview, an explanation process of what you expect, demand, and need out of them, because confusion and short-sightedness in an interview is the #1 difficulty for veterans.
When I got out, it was the slowing down that was different. It happened so fast that by the time it was time to get out and join the civilian world again, it was just kind of had to take a step back and breathe and figure yourself out again. My experiences in the military helped me out by more deeply embedding my core values and beliefs, overcoming adversity time and time again, and just learning resilience has really transitioned into the civilian life well. Work ethic. The military helped shape my work ethic. I was always a hard worker, but it just helped shape that and develop it more. Working for a vet-friendly employer is a lot easier. Transitioning, they understand you, they understand how you work and how you learn. Take some time to redefine yourself and who you are, and just remember how proud you were of what you've done. Know that you're part of the 1% who've served.
I know for a fact that veterans are the future of the Texas workforce.
You can always go to their website, look at the opportunities that they have available, and always reach out to the Veteran Resource and Referral Specialists, and we get you connected to those employers.
And one of the good things about this is because with multiple different programs in our Workforce Solutions offices, as we're talking about Cap Metro, Akima, and multiple other players up, Tesla, if in a lot of circumstances, these transition service members and recently separated veterans will qualify under our Workforce Opportunity or Workforce Opportunity Innovation Act as a dislocated worker. And multiple times, in many circumstances, especially under a new grant TWC has recently launched out, the transition from military to civilian employment. A lot of times with supportive services, TSMs, recently separated veterans, can get tools or clothing equipment that they need for that position completely paid for by the workforce. So when they start work, they're not in the hole for having to buy tools. One of the key things I think when we work with our service members and employers is that translation military skill, that translation military language. It is critical. I can tell you when I first retired, I know why I didn't get a job for 4 months, because my resume was horrible. It takes a while to get that experience or run into somebody with experience, and that's what you do. And it's something that has to be done on both sides. We got to have it from an expert's point of view, like Sam working with the service members, but we also got to ask the employer to do the same too. They got to meet us. If we can meet halfway, we can make better connections. Anything that you want to add on that?
Translation. I can't say it enough because a lot of the employers, they don't understand a lot of the military jargon that we use. So there are documents that we do have. The workforce centers have those documents that you can use those documents to translate a lot of the military jargon that you get used to using every day. So
a perfect example of this is looking at skill set. Sometimes we all just look at a code or numbers code because the military has MOSs, Air Force Specialty Codes, Naval Ratings, but we really want to look at skill sets. This past week, we received a call from an employer in California, and I transferred and had Sam and another one of our staff members contact this employer. They were looking for somebody strong with the electronic engineering type background out of the service. Sam got a hold of him and informed him of our hiring red, white, and blue that was happening this week up at Fort Cavazos. And I can tell you that individual showed up. He showed up at this job fair, Sam. He didn't have a tablecloth. He didn't have one of the banners, but he made 10 flyers. And Sam, what happened?
Made those 10 flyers, put it on a naked table, and the client of mine attended the job fair, which that client had already had one job offer. And he attended the job fair and went down and talked to the employer, and the employer asked him several questions, and from those several questions, a direct hire took place with a position that they had been trying to fill for 6 months. That person was hired with a starting salary of $85K.
And so that goes to show you that if we work based off skill set and having that employer knows what they are looking for and matching it with the right veteran or transitioning service member, great things can happen. We'll talk about it in best practices, but having the right staff as an employer that are attending military events is critical. One of the other things we always recommend is employers look at starting veteran resource groups. Samsung is a perfect example and an employer that we work with that has a tremendous veteran resource group. These resource groups are there that can help. Not only the main thing is to help that veteran and to keep up on veterans' benefits and changes in programs. This is extremely important. And sometimes it can also help them if they need other help if there was a medical situation. I can tell you in our 15 years, 16 years of our program, we have worked with several employers working with veterans to resolve veterans who was having trouble adjusting to their workplace. And yes, in a couple of these cases, it was due to PTSD. But by working with that employer and making sure and explaining what the veteran was feeling, what they were going through, and the type of environment they were in, what was triggering that, by explaining and working with that employer, and of course working with the veteran, we were able, working with the employer, we were able for that veteran to maintain their job so they can take care of their family and themselves. So there's all kind of help and resources out there, and the best way to do is to contact TWC or TWC, and our contact information will be on the webinar and of course all the websites. Let us take a look at a success story, several success stories with veterans and Cap Metro.
I think it's very important to have veterans in the workforce, to offer them opportunities to come back after what they did for us as a country, and offer them opportunities to work, to grow, to be part of the community is very important.
I've worked at Capital Metro for 24 years, and I've been in this position since 2021, 3 years now. Well, I deal with building maintenance and vehicle maintenance. Of course, vehicle maintenance is the bulk of my work.
At the current position at Cap Metro, I've been here 2 years as a superintendent. What I do is, as a superintendent, I oversee the Operation Control Center.
Here at Capital Metro, I'm a part of the marketing team. More specifically, I'm a part of the web dev team. Well, I spent 4 years in the Armed Forces, Army, to be more specific. I was what you would call a graphic document specialist.
There are a lot of resources now that didn't exist before.
How do we approach hiring veterans organization? We reach out to the veteran organizations. We make a concerted effort to open that door, let people know what we do, what opportunities we have.
Getting out into that world, coming from military into a civilian world is hard. Especially trying to find a job that you did in the military is hard and you might not.
And I was having a bit of a hard time finding something career-wise, and I got my automotive and diesel associate's degree.
And when I got in the military, it was at a time where, doing what I did was far few in between in terms of the opportunities that were available.
What I like best about Capital Metro working here is I like dealing with people, I like dealing with customers.
Our employees and other employees, and it's become part of the family.
Capital Metro is family oriented, and that's pretty much what the military is based on. Everything's about family in the military.
Like a family, which correlates directly to my experience in the military.
I want to encourage other employees in the state of Texas to hire veterans and give them a place to work and to grow and build a career.
One of our most favorite programs is the We Hire Vets program that we do. And this program started in the late 2017. This program recognizes Texas employers whose workforce is comprised of 10% or more of U.S. military veterans. It is a very simple and straightforward process applying for this. We have an online site, or our representatives, someone like Sam or one of the Texas Veterans Commission representatives, can nominate the employer. The employer can self-nominate themselves. But they go and they nominate, and all they have to do is make sure that their workforce is comprised of that 10% more U.S. military veterans, and we do check the UI tax account to make sure it's updated. The employer receives a physical decal. They also, the one that's really popular is the digital decal that we send them, and then the letter that is signed by Texas Veterans Commission Chairwoman, that's Laura Kerner, and then of course, the Texas Workforce Commission Commissioner representing employers, Joe Esparza. And Sam, anything you would like to add to the We Hire Vets program?
Yeah, just like you stated, it's really easy. I mean, the good thing about it is the employer can self-nominate. They don't need anyone to actually guide them through. It's pretty self-explanatory, the questions that is asked, and it's pretty easy to do. Just the employer just need to take advantage of it if they have that 10% veteran hire.
A couple other great things about the We Hire Vets: it's free to the employer. That's one. And then two, going back, there's a We Hire Vets icon that if the employer lists their positions in workintexas.com, that We Hire Vets is by that job posting in workintexas.com, so they're identified in that. Another program that is offered that our program and Texas Veterans Commission work with employers on is called the Hire Vets Medallion Program. This is the Department of Labor, Veterans, Employment, and Training Services program. This program has two levels. You have a gold and a platinum. This program is an application that employers must fill out, and there is a nominal cost for the medallion program. But I highly encourage employers to look at the Hire Vets Medallion program. That icon can also be added and work in Texas, and every year that program opens in January. It closes at the end of April, and they announce the recipients for that year's award right before Veterans Day. We're going to talk about some of the best practices because we see that. We heard about the good news story, and that was about connecting veterans with employers. And I can tell you, we were just up in Fort Cavazos the other day, and we had over 1,200 service members, spouses, and veterans at that event. And I think you ran around the whole conference center probably about 600 times. But talk to us and what you do about connecting the veterans directly with the employers and what effect that has.
Mostly when I'm working with the client, of course, I look at their skill set, then try to match their skill set up to the job description that the employer has submitted or sent to me. And so once I make that identification that is a match and they meet pretty much all the minimum qualifications, then I'll just send that individual's resume to the recruiter, and hopefully an interview is landed. And also another best practice also is just making sure that the resume is translated from that military jargon, and also tailored to exactly what those employers are asking for.
One of the key things that employers need to do is ensure when you attend veteran-related job fairs or when you attend these job fairs on the installation that your recruiter has a great understanding of the military culture or can relate to the different skill sets. Case in point is what we talked about earlier with the company from California. He was a Navy veteran. The employer was a Navy veteran, and we're at an Army installation. He's speaking to a soldier. The soldier came up and he said, I was MOS, 92 Yankee or whatever it was. And the Navy veteran looked at him and says, I don't understand Army MOSs, but what I do understand is skill sets. And that's when he started asking him skill sets, and then that's when a light bulb clicked. So that's the most important thing that these recruiters, not only at the job fair, but also in the HR departments. The recruiter has to be involved all the way through the process. And that doesn't only count for private employers, that's government employment as well. I know in the state of Texas, we've had some good examples working with state agencies and getting veterans on their state applications to certain agencies, and that includes indirect hires. Is there anything you would like to say on that experience?
One of the best practices for employers is in regarding to the military, if you're recruiting off a military basis, is to stay engaged. Once you make that contact with that transition assistant program representative, is keep continuous engagement. And if you do that, then you'll be getting the talent that you're seeking.
Another important factor on this, and we spoke, and every time that we're up in Fort Cavazos, and so we get an employer says, I have open position, we ask what is the pay range for that position. We need to know on the pay range, and the service member or the veteran needs to know. A lot of them are used to the benefits and so forth from being in federal duty. It's quite a bit different once you leave the military and come out, and that pay band is very, very important. Also, I think for certain places like Fort Cavazos, they have a certain target that they want that employer to meet.
Exactly right. I can speak for Fort Cavazos. I do know that the transition service members, as they go through their TAP program, they are introduced and educated in regarding to what type of salary that they should be looking at. And the thing is that employers need to understand is that these transition service members and veterans need to be making equivalent to what they was making in the military, or making a little bit more than what they paid in the military.
I also want to preface this, because I've heard this a lot throughout the years. The military retirees do not need to make as much as other employees. That is a fallacy. Pay should be based on that individual's quality and qualifications that they bring to the job. The other I will slide in, and we will talk about, we mentioned it earlier, is the veteran resource groups. Once again, if you have a very strong veteran resource group, you're going to be greater out more in the veteran community. And when you're out more in the veteran community, that could be on a Saturday, working, placing flags at the cemetery for Veterans Day. It could be working, handing out buddy poppies. It could be working the homeless veteran stand down, for example. But it's going to put you out, which is going to give you greater exposure, which is going to have greater interest for your company. One of the big things I think that we talk about that we've done at the Workforce Commission, we have brought several on, the internship programs. DOD, Department of Defense, has what they call the Skills Bridge program. And the Army, especially up at Fort Cavazos, and I've seen it out at Fort Bliss, they have what they call the Army Individualized Career Skills Program. But these are internships. And I think you wanted to talk about this internship opportunity.
Yes. My advice to employers is to take advantage of the individual internships in the Career Skills Program. I know most employers, you know it as the Department of Defense, the DOD Skill Bridge, but most of the military, especially Fort Cavazos, is called the Career Skills Program. Take advantage of it. What it is similar to a try before you buy. You can have the transition service member, they're being paid by the military. They can come and work for you up until 180 days at no cost to you, due to their still being paid by the military. I would definitely tell you to take advantage of that program. Try to learn and understand how it works. And it's not that much paperwork that the employer has to do. The employer only has one document to complete. And that document pretty much just states what that individual be doing from day to day. And all the other documentation is from the transition service member that's transitioning out from their chain of command, all the approvals that they need to acquire.
That individualized career skills program paperwork is the easiest government paperwork you'll ever fill out. Trust us on that one. And in both of these programs, for one, you will have to work with a service member because they will have some requirements that they will have to make and meet in order to transition out of the military. But as with all employees, proper communication, it shouldn't be a problem. Remember, DOD, the branch, is paying the service member. The only thing that the employer will have to do will be responsible for the office, or if they work remotely, the equipment, the computer, or the phone, and that is it. It's a very, very, very small investment to look at future talent for your organization. Department of Defense Skills Bridge program is offered. They have a website if you're interested. But this, if you take part in the DoD Skills Bridge, there's a process for the employers to be vetted. Once you're on it, you can get service members from across the country. So you can get from all different branches. You may have a company that has, for Navy Raid, for example, for the Navy, that has certain skill sets that sailors happen to have because the Navy is very technical. That may be your company, and that may be an angle to look at. I'd also ask employers that we've done this also in the past. We've done them where we do targeted specific job fairs for these employers. I can tell you with specific employers, they were so specific, especially in the mechanical side, that they informed us of what they needed to see from the veteran in order for them to make a decision. But we were very, very, very successful in making sure that we prepped the veterans for the interviews and they went through the thought process in the right way to get to impress the hiring managers that they were hired on. Now let's hear from one of my employees who works in Brazos Valley.
I work for the Texas Veterans Leadership Program, a part of the Texas Workforce Commission. We are all combat veterans. We help other veterans and their families transition from military service. We help with employment, military benefits, basically whatever a veteran or their family needs. To get a veteran employment ready depends on each veteran. A lot of times veterans will come in seeking employment, but you find there's a barrier to employment or there's multiple barriers to employment. So finding out what those barriers are and how to address them. A lot of our job is networking within the community to A, meet employers, but B, also those community resources, whether it's housing, financial assistance, food pantries, camaraderie, peer groups. A veteran may have something going on that they need to talk about and kind of get resolved before they're ready to have a job. The job I do every day prepares veterans to be great employees. When they come in, we look at any barriers to employment they might have, and we address those first. We understand that if a veteran isn't whole, then they're probably not going to be able to thrive in that employment situation. So we make sure that mental health, financial needs, all those other stressors in their lives have been addressed before we say they're employment ready and we match them with the employers. We work with employers and we identify those looking to hire veterans, but then we look at our veterans and we see who's qualified. We screen their resumes and we make sure they actually have those skills and the knowledge needed to be successful before we send them to the employers. So we're matching quality candidates to those employment positions. This benefits the Texas workforce because you have quality employees who are there for the long term. They're looking to thrive where they're at and to benefit that company. It equals extra revenue. Veterans have experience, skills, and leadership abilities that strengthen the Texas workforce.
The last thing we'll talk about is the employer showcases. And I can tell you this man right here, and this happens across, Rodney Washington did this out at Fort Bliss, but employer showcases highlight certain employers specifically to these TSNs and recently separated veterans. And I can tell you two of the biggest companies that you had out there have been Tesla, Samsung, and possibly Cap Metro as well out there. So tell us about the employer showcases.
Yes, the way the employer showcases work, when the employers reach out, pretty much, they reach out and they kind of lay out the talent that they're looking for. And so we ask them, hey, are you open to doing a showcase? And the answer is always yes. So we try to set it up, and we advise the employers to give yourself time to market it, because it's transition service members, they are very busy. And so we always advise them to give themselves at least 3 to 4 weeks to market the event, so we can push it out to those individuals so that they have a good showing when they do the showcases. Pretty much we have them come in, we get them in the room, and they set up, and they talk about what their company is looking for and what they're hiring for. And those in attendance that has that skill set that these companies are looking for. Prime examples are Tesla, Amazon. We had Amazon, we've had Cap Metro, and they all have been successful in using the showcases to find talent that they've been looking for.
Thank you, Sam. I will tell you that part of the employer showcases, they have many job fairs they do up there. I think they're done quarterly or every other week, a quarter. And then I think part of one thing I need to mention, because we're seeing more and more of this, we're seeing major employers, and I use Ford as an example. They came to Fort Cavazos, and they needed, what they're looking for is they're needing to fill their technician. They got a void in their workforce for technicians. And so they developed a program with Fort Cavazos to start this. They work with the local community college, Central Texas College, and they also work with the workforce on a certain grant, the Target Industry Partnership Grant. So there's a lot of other resources just besides what we explained as the help of job fairs and in breaking down resumes and making these connections. There is skills funding for employers, and then as I mentioned, that Target Industry Partnership Grant in this case was able to put funding forward, that Ford match that brought in all the vehicles and special tools they needed to start this course for transition service members to go through and complete, that eventually will wind up in Texas dealerships filling those holes in the workforce. So there's plenty of opportunities and so much out there that the workforce that can help you with. All you got to do is contact us. Real quickly, state agencies are part, because here in the Austin area, and we are close, and we have done a lot of work on the installations and hope to hit Joint Base San Antonio. But one of the provisions, just to make everybody aware of with the state agencies, is there is a military preference direct hire. We recently had training with a lot of state agencies on this, but this is the quickest way to hire a veteran or a transition service member coming out. All the state agency has to do is not post it, but look at workintexas.com, pull that state application. They can conduct an informal interview with that veteran, and then once they do that, they get the permission from their HR, whatever their process is. They go through the background check and then to the conditional certification offer. And I will tell you, we have done several of these, and you've gotten several of them hired on through TWC, especially our IT department. Right. It goes very quickly. It usually is less than 2 weeks from the start of the process to it's finished. Texas Workforce Commission, in partnership with the Texas Veterans Commission and the Texas Medical Center, we do a statewide job fair in all 28 boards, and this is our annual Hire and Bread Widen You event. We recently completed the one up there on Fort Cavazos. This event is usually the first, anytime during the first three parts of November. All 28 board areas will conduct this event, and this is just another opportunity for employers who are looking to fill their workforce with veterans to get in and participate. Next year will be the 14th annual, and we hope to see you there, so please visit your local workforce office. And some of the other job fairs that I like to mention that is done by our program and TWC. I know you'll talk about the minis here in a minute, but we do job fairs with the American Legion. We did a job fair, 2 job fairs last year with the Texas Veterans of Foreign Wars at the Midwinter Conference in Corpus Christi and their summer conference up in Dallas. We also, Sam, can you explain the mini job fairs that they would do a quarter up at Fort Cavazos?
Right. For those in the Central Texas area, Fort Cavazos has the mini career fairs that they do during quarterly, and they also have the major big job fairs that they do in January. Matter of fact, this one coming up this year will be on the 28th of January, and the next mega job fair that they do will be in June. So that's continuous on the calendar, January, June, and then the Hiring Red, White, and You that takes place in November.
So this is just not Fort Cavazos they do this. They do it out at Fort Bliss. Joint Base San Antonio does several during the year. They bring in people like recruitmilitary.com and DAV that they bring on the installations. They also bring on multiple others. One of the ones that we're very proud of, in some places they have done just military spouse job fairs that have gone very well. Unfortunately, military spouse unemployment rate continues to remain high across the country. It's several reasons for this, including the constant shifting and moving from one place to the other. But there is an emphasis to how do we get our military spouses employed. By the way, they make outstanding employees. Remember, if they can take care of a family, take care of the kids, do all this other stuff at this time while the service member's gone and still work, what better of employer would you want to look at? But military spouses, since they move so much, could be eligible for what we call Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. There's funding programs under dislocated worker since they go from one location to the next. So this could give them the opportunity to upskill their training, to get supportive services, and in some cases they even help with child care. So encourage the military spouses or employers looking to hire a tremendous person also look at the military spouse. Local workforce boards will also do certain job fairs throughout the year. Sometimes they're veteran related, sometimes they're industry specific what they're looking for. But it is the partnership, it is the communication and the collaboration between that Workforce Solutions Office, the Texas and their business service team, the Texas Veterans Commission, their veteran employer liaisons, and our veteran resource coordinators under the Texas Veterans Leadership Program. That's the decal. That is the We Hire Vets decal that you get. Every year we put a new designation of the year. This is an annual requirement that you re-enlist basically
Every
year. Hire Vets Medallion website, that information is there where you can go to DOL and get the information. Remember, it's open from January to the end of April. If you May 1st, they won't accept the application, so make sure you have it in with all the details. And the last thing we want to cover is work opportunity tax credits. This is a benefit for hiring veterans. I think we would both agree that hiring a veteran is the right thing to do, especially if they're qualified for the position. Hiring a veteran is the right thing to do and what they bring to the workforce. The system that provides what we call a conditional certification letter for these work opportunity tax credits. And I don't know, before I go over the amounts, if you want to say anything about work opportunity tax credits and how employers look at these or how hard it is to process the work opportunity tax credits.
With the new system, how easy it is now. So to get the conditional work opportunity tax credit, so it's very easy. I would definitely make sure all veterans are educated and know that the work opportunity tax credit is just another something that you can use in regard to informing or educating your employer.
This is a benefit for employers. Obviously, we would agree that bringing that qualified veteran onto the workforce, that is going to do wonders for your workforce, but this is something for employers. It's called a work opportunity tax credit. And what this does, depending on if the veteran is eligible, this will give the employer a credit. It will reduce the overall income tax that the employer has to pay for themselves through a year when they claim or when they decide to use this tax credit. So there are several designation groups on this work opportunity tax credit. I will cover them, and then I'll ask Sam how the entry goes and how the veteran works do it. Number one, before I start, employers from the day to hire, and the documents he's going to cover, you have 28 days to get this into the new work opportunity tax credit. And I believe they're still taking the mail-in stuff right now, right?
Yeah.
So, but that will probably change. But 28 days from day to hire, it has to be done. But starting off with disabled veteran. Disabled veterans that have been unemployed for at least 6 months or more, the employer can earn up to a $9,600 tax credit. It goes on the time that the veteran works during that year, but it can be up to a $9,600 tax credit. And for veterans who with a service-connected disability within the last year of discharge, it can be up to a $4,800 tax credit. The next is unemployed veterans. Veterans who've been unemployed for 6 months or greater within a year. The employer could receive a $5,600. The veteran makes them eligible. And then the last one, if a veteran has been unemployed for 4 weeks or greater, that could bring a $2,400 tax credit to the employer. And then the last one is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. If the veteran or a member of the veteran's family is receiving SNAP, this could bring as a $2,400 tax credit for the employer. Obviously, this could be a confidential conversation between the employer and a veteran, but if they have a conditional certification like Sam is going to talk about in a minute, that should that would be the best clue for the employer that, hey, you are eligible for this $2,400 tax credit. We will put the links on the website for all the work opportunity tax credits and the contact information for Mr. Russell Hunter, the program's director. But we can tell you this is, it's a great thing. You're doing the right thing by hiring a veteran, and then you're going to get a tax credit on top of that. That's a win-win all the way around. You want to explain anything about the conditional certification letters and the tax credit?
Yes, under the new system, the conditional certificate certification is pretty fast. I would tell you to reach out to your Texas Veteran Commission representative and also the Texas Workforce Commission, your local workforce centers, and also the Veteran Resource and Referral Specialists that you're working with. They all know how to do the conditional certification that you need in regard to having that conversation with your employer. When you engage with your employer, just ask them, they're aware of the work opportunity tax credit. And get your conditional certificate, you present it to them, and they get that tax credit for hiring you.
And remember, 28 days within a day to hire. If they have the conditional letter, the other important form they have to have is the IRS Form 8850. They got to have that, but that's on the website and information. Or like you said, contact a TWC representative or one of our staff, and we can help square the employer away. Last resources I'm going to mention is annually we have to write a report of the top 5 transitioning military MOSs within the state of Texas. The disclaimer is always going to be the Army, since we have Fort Cavazos and Fort Ballista, 2 major installations, huge installation. The Army MOSs and the Army population is going to carry which military occupational specialties they are. I will tell you with this is a good indication, and this is a good report for employers to look at because it lists all of the TWC veteran programs and what is happening, but it also gives you insight on those military MOSs that are transitioned. And I will tell you that infantry and riflemen will always number 1 because it's the largest MOS in the Army, and of course supplemented by the Marine Corps. But then all the other branches are taken into effect when you talk about number 2, which is logistics. There's so much, whether you're the Navy, Coast Guard, the Air Force has huge logistic tail along with the Army and Navy, and so it has those different ratings, Air Force specialty codes and so forth. Wheel vehicle mechanic is number 3. We're talking about Ford being shorter technicians. I can tell you a lot of other dealerships are shorter technicians. Always see diesel mechanics. But wheel vehicle mechanics is always in the top 5. Healthcare, aerospace, medicine, they're always, that is number 4. They're always in the top 5. There is always a large group that come out of our military installations. And remember that we also have the military school down in Joint Base San Antonio for all military sends their medical people here for the military school. And then the last one is it's fairly new, and it's been new for the armed forces, but it's everything to do with communication, especially computer networking and cybersecurity. Those military MOSs and occupational specialties are growing exponentially in the military. So we have listed a great number of resources. We try to cover them at a medium level, I guess, but to get you interested in contacting us or going to the Workforce Solutions office and working with these programs to fill your workforce needs. At this point in time, any questions? This concludes our presentation, our webinar today. First off, I'd like to thank you, Sam, for coming down today and sharing your expertise and knowledge. I would now like to thank you for those who watched and participated in our webinar. For further information or if you need to contact us, our information will be displayed on the website.